Thank you. Guess with that, we can go ahead and get started. It's like Chris and Anthony are still our only members online. I guess officially you guys can call to order, but
I'm here.
oh,
This
Scott.
is Scott.
Hi, Scott.
Okay.
Perfect. Our chair is here. He can call us to order.
How do we have a quorum? I
We
hope.
don't currently. Allie is supposed to be on the call today. She's not with us yet.
Okay. All right. Well, why don't we wait for her before we start? Let's give her 5 minutes, okay? I had trouble connecting, had to back out and go back in and start my meeting.
Okay.
Okay. There was a message, somebody's logging in.
Allie's logging in now.
Okay. Ellie, are you there?
Not yet, but she should be shortly.
Okay. Just yell out when she's on, okay?
Will do.
She having trouble?
I'm not sure. It sounds like Jennifer's communicating with her at least. Jennifer's reaching out again. And Allie is with us. All right, we officially have a quorum.
Okay, great. I'm glad we were able to do that since we're going to have to work on this report. Um, let's call the meeting to order. Have you got somebody recording the roll of who's in attendance?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about old business. That's the first thing on our agenda. And what is the old business, Lisa? Do we have any?
That is, yeah, your guys' chance if there's anything you feel like is unresolved from previous meetings or any outstanding questions. I'm not aware of any, but if you have some, we're happy to answer whatever questions we can.
Okay, anybody? How are you handling this? Do people just turn on their mics when they want to talk, or do they have to raise their hands? I'm used to using Zoom.
Right, yeah, every one of them is a little different. So, of course, raising your hand is easy enough, and we can probably keep from talking over each other that way. But it also happens that we forget to do that a lot. So just, yeah, if you're talking or want to talk, just go ahead and unmute and we will get everybody taken care of.
Okay. All right. Anybody have anything that they want to bring up from previous meetings or things that have happened over this past COVID period? Hearing none or seeing none, we'll go on to the next thing. Let's go to staff reports and let's talk about finance.
Okay, well, actually, finance and capital and maintenance are all kind of rolled into the report to council this time. So I will go ahead and share my screen, I hope. And we can go through this and hit all of those things.
Okay, very good.
You guys see the presentation?
Sure do.
Perfect. Okay, so again, this is the presentation. Let's start with dates, actually. The study session where this should be brought to council would be the first study session in April tentatively, which would be April 12th. It's going to go in the council packet as information only at the first meeting in April. So that'll go in the council packet on April 5th. And then if they want us to do full presentations, which they did last year, then we would appear on the 12th to do that. So these are the slides that will go in council's packet. So please stop me as we go through if you have any issues or questions. So just these first few, you guys are all used to seeing just the program objectives of the sales tax and our watershed map. So when we go to financials, these are the projected revenues for 2021. And this report is going to look at the first half of the fiscal year. So these were our projected revenues. So just barely over 4 million we were anticipating. In the first half of the year, we brought in, you can see if we keep on pace, we'll actually come in ahead of projected revenues. We're on pace to do 4.4 million instead of 4. So that is pretty exciting news, especially with the pandemic. So,
Lisa, can I ask you, how did this compare to the year before at this point?
Actually, I can pull that up on another monitor real quick. Let me look. We're usually tracking pretty close, but I know this current year, we actually had looked at pushing back projects because of COVID and not knowing how everything was going to shake out. So to see us tracking ahead is pretty exciting. In our October presentation, nope, that would have been full year. April. In April last year, those were projected. We were projected to do 3.5 and we were ahead of schedule. So we were at 2.440 last year at this time. So interest was, we were doing better on interest last year than we
Mm-hmm.
are this year. But revenue wise, we are ahead in actual sales tax collected this year versus last year.
That's
So,
incredible. Can that be because of collecting sales tax on internet sales?
no, actually, we're not, none of those sales, the use tax hasn't waterfalled yet into the individual storm taxes. The way the use tax was passed actually went to the animal shelter and police first. And after certain criteria were met, which we think that this coming fiscal year, it will start to waterfall for the first time. But actually no dollars of the use tax yet have hit general fund or any of the other special sales taxes.
Okay. Okay. Well,
We,
can
we
can you
guess,
keep an eye on it
oh
for
yeah,
us?
yes, we'll keep an eye on it. We guess that, and it is just a guess, that as people haven't spent as much money on entertainment and traveling, there's been a lot of home improvement projects and things like that. So money is still being spent, just spent differently. So we are still seeing revenues come in. So and when we talk about this coming year's capital budget, you'll see we're programming a typical almost 1.8 million in capital this year, like any other year.
Okay. Well, okay.
Those
Carry
are our
on.
totals. This is the allocation of the dollars that have come in, just that breakdown of what goes to maintenance, administration, permit compliance, and then a capital budget allocation there so far for the year.
Okay.
And
Now,
then
the administration, does that include all employees?
that's, yeah, that's, so between maintenance and administration, yes.
Okay. Okay.
And then our maintenance summary. And again, like we've talked about at our previous meetings, this is really where you see the biggest COVID impact for us. As you guys know, we were on staff rotation, so we didn't have our full staff in for at any one time for a large portion of the year. Happy to report that all of our staff is back in-house and working away. So we're all very excited about that. But you can see we've moved, because of the pandemic, we definitely moved into a emergency only, repairs only, and cleaning if we could get to it. But we weren't able to do a lot of the proactive work that we would typically do. And that, again, that's just where you see, this is really where you see COVID hit us, is our maintenance summary. But what has happened since our last presentation is
Lisa,
yeah.
Excuse me a minute. Surely we're getting some backlog on repairs. Is that correct?
Rich can probably chime in here. I don't know that, I wouldn't say a bigger backlog than normal on repairs, because repairs, we've still been focusing on hitting those. So if you look at the maintenance summary here, in all of last fiscal year, we did 88 repairs. So right. In half of the year, we've already done 42. So we're really not far off on the repair area there.
No, truly, our significant backlog is on inspection and cleaning. And if you look at those numbers, we are quite behind on those numbers. But that's where the backlog is. So we focused on repairs rather than those things.
Okay, good. I was just concerned, wondering how you were structuring the repairs. I mean, you obviously tier them as to emergency down to we'll get around to it when we can. Am I correct?
Yeah. Like Rich said, we've definitely prioritized repairs above all things. So as they've come in, well, really they do have priorities in-house. If it's, hey, this came in on Monday and we can get to it on Wednesday because something else bigger happened, we've done that. But as far as repairs go, we have been hopping right on top of those. And again, just for everybody's sake, looking at this, for clarification, the column on the right is not the full fiscal year, whereas the column on the left, that is a whole fiscal year's worth of numbers. So while we are behind with COVID and everything, it's not apples to apples because we're comparing a whole year to a partial year there. So.
Okay, perfect. Anybody have any questions so far?
Do we anticipate that we will be back on track by the end of this December? I mean, or are there still going to be leftovers? Is everything going to get pushed out another fiscal?
Oh, I don't think it'll be pushed out another fiscal. We hope, I mean, we'll put everybody, all hands on deck out inspecting and cleaning. And we have since they've come back. But I hate to tell you, we'll definitely be there just because so much of our work is weather dependent. And as we come into spring rain season, that'll keep the storm crews hopping. So we'll see how the spring goes.
Good enough. Thank you.
I'll be able to answer that better at our next meeting because we'll be through some of the rainy season at that point, and we'll see how we've managed to catch up by then. And also just informationally, our crews have only been back to full staff every day of the week since March 1st. So we're 10 days in to trying to catch back up.
Congratulations. Thank
you. Yes, we're very excited.
Anybody else have any questions on that? If not, we can move on to the trenchard bank stabilization. I take it by your silence, I can't see anybody other than the PowerPoint.
Yep.
So I'm just going to assume nobody has any additional questions. All right, tell us about this one, Lisa.
So this was actually a bit of an emergency. This project came about actually from the spring rains this year. This pipe came apart and took a chunk of someone's backyard with it. And actually the Cracker Neck watershed as a whole has several issues like this. So we've put, again, when we talk about capital projects, we're addressing it in capital, but this is one that we did take care of this year. Bank stabilization project, like I said, it took somebody's yard with it. You can see the pipe there, and these are just pictures of the progress, but we completed this one under budget, which is always happy news, and in a pretty quick turnaround on time in less than 2 weeks. And we contracted with Weideman Construction to get it done. So these are just some before, during, and there's the after picture. So you can see we went in and armored the bank. So that one's been taken care of this year. And then the Truman Road culvert, you can see in that picture there on the left, the quality condition of an old stone and CMP culvert, and it collapsed. If you see in that picture on the right, those are other utility lines running through our trench. But despite that, again, same contractor came out and did the work. We did the design work in-house. And you can see as I scroll through these, the new culvert, quite an improvement over the old one. So those have been completed since we last met. And then capital improvement projects. So these are the stats for these are our current stats. There are $7.5 million dedicated in capital currently underway. You can see that over 43 million has been spent on capital projects since the inception of the sales tax. So an incredible amount of work has been done in town because of this. As far as continued projects go, we've completed 113. We have 7 currently in design and 9 projects in acquisition or construction, which would be all those projects on Ted's bar chart that we talk about. And then just as far as the presentation go, these are the stats on our system and how many structures we take care of. And that's the presentation. While we're on capital real quick, I did want to talk about next fiscal year's capital. Like I said, we're slated to spend, let me get the actual total, 1.76 million. So usually we target 1.7, 1.8 million. That's split over 4 projects. Leslie to Crane and Hereford, phase 1, that's going to be in construction. Rockwood storm drainage, that's in design. We do 100,000 a year in trenchless technology to go in and line pipes and do projects that we can do without excavating. And then the Fairmount Highland storm drainage construction is the other big project on the list. And Ted, if you want to jump in and give some details on those projects, not to put you on the spot, I can do it if you don't want to. Um,
No,
but I
I'm
don't
fine.
cut you out the information.
Thanks, Lisa. Can you hear me okay?
Mhm.
The Leslie project has been delayed for several years. It's part of the old Pearl to Crane Hereford job where we're actually splitting it into two parts because it was such a large, pricey job. It's hard to afford in just 1 year. So we're having to break it apart. And we're finally going to get that started back on that one again. We haven't had any other job get delayed like that has. The other construction job is the Fairmount. And that's a neighborhood job that consists of 4 different locations. And the engineers are just now, they're into the early design phases, pre-design, where they're looking at different options. Because of COVID, we can't have a public meeting, so they're sending out letters to the residents, and then they're going to talk to them. Those that have reported complaints and flooding will be talked to via phone. But the engineers are working on that right now. The bar chart is very similar to what you've seen in December. I added and updated it. I still showed the new workload as we did in December because the council hadn't seen it since October. So it shows both the combined December and Marches. Any questions?
I've got one for you, Ted. It may be unrelated. I noticed that the Wiedemann was on 2 of those jobs that we're featuring in our report. Were they on the 3rd one also?
They were on the 2. The 2 that we are reporting is the Trenchard and the Truman. And Scott, I'm very proud of what happened on those jobs. And in fact, I want to add a little to the. I think maybe I did before in December, but like I say, I've been in this business for 40 years, and you don't see the stars align as well as it did on these very often. We had an extremely complicated situation on Truman with utilities. I don't know if I mentioned to you, but we had 4 different AT&T cables, 2 of which were fiber, and what they call a dark fiber. And that's a national security line. And you don't mess with those things. You don't get close to those things. We had high pressure gas, we had water, we had Comcast, we had sewer. It was difficult because it was an emergency, because Truman needed to be open as a arterial to the city, and the need to get these things operational as soon as possible. We were able to use a price agreement that had been established, inter-city price agreement established through the city of Lee Summit to hire Wiedemann on a time and expense basis. Now, those have got to be watched, and we have an inspector watching hours and all, because it's time and expense, they can be abused. Correct. But just to show you how this was not abused, their original estimate on Trenchard was $329,000. The actual cost coming in on this thing is going to be about $130,000.
Wow.
Now that was what also made this so incredible. The reason we were able to get that done was because of the weather, because of a good contractor, but it also was staff, and Jeff Conway and Rich with their help, and city's drivers and dump trucks, we were able to haul off and bring in material, I don't know, 60, 70 loads at least. And that was an incredible amount of savings. So it was one of those jobs where everybody worked together and everything came together in a way that you just don't see very often. So I'm really, like I say, I'm bragging about it, Scott.
Well, I'll tell you, Ted, one of the things I thought is I noticed that you were pleased with both of these projects that Wiedemann did. Have we used them before? I don't recall ever seeing them.
You know, we put everything out to bid, and sometimes they're the low bidder and sometimes, but most of the time they're not. You know, the thing is, and here's the sad thing with going always with the low bid. Sometimes you don't always get the best contractor.
Right.
That's fact life. Sometimes you do, but I'm very pleased with them, and I'm very pleased with staff, how they all came together. Mike and I worked on the design on Truman. We were able to save costs like hand over fist on design costs. There was no design costs. So yeah, just, you know, everything came together real well.
Great, great. Anything more you want to tell us about, Ted?
Not unless you have any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Ted?
I just want to go on record saying that I miss your spreadsheets, Ted.
They at least were attached to the meeting invite. So while it's not the same as Ted going over it in person, they are there for your reference.
All right. Okay. Next is what before adjournment?
We would just ask if you are willing to if you support that capital plan for this year, those projects. And I guess the one detail, like you guys we've talked with you several times about how we pick these projects and that they all involve structural flooding. But from the notes I have, the projects for this year would impact at least almost 30 homes in town with just those really 3 projects, because one of them is trenchless tech. So that could be used anywhere in town. So that's quite an impact to homes in our city. So.
Yeah.
But as far as our information to present to you, we don't have any more for the day. We would just ask if you were supportive of those projects going forward to council.
Do you need a motion to approve?
I believe so.
There it is. Motion to approve?
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 If your mic is off, just nod your head yes.
I think I actually got 4 yes.
Smile will do. Okay.
I actually have one question before we adjourn.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
So Jennifer, when we're presenting this to council, do you feel like it would be best if some of the members from this team or the committee attend or help and assist with talking points?
So,
like, what can we do to help you guys the most?
So Allie, I think that at the last meeting you volunteered to give the presentation.
Okay, I'm happy to.
If that's still the case, then I would give you the slides, and I'll be there that night for sure.
Okay.
And then I'll have the slides with any notes associated with. Usually the notes are, you know, the specific linear feet of pipe that went in at these locations if they ask, just to give you the backup data. But yeah, we would just go over those. And I don't know that you were on yet, but we did talk about dates. And so that presentation will be included in council's packet as information only on Monday the 5th.
Okay.
And then if they request presentations by the committees, which they did last year, those should tentatively be April 12th.
April 12th.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So April 5th and April 12th.
Yep. And April 5th, you don't have to do anything. They're going to have the information. They won't go over it at council. It'll just be a part of their packet so they can start reviewing it. And then they'll decide if they want presentations. And if they do, they'll be at that fall study session that following week.
You got it. Anything you guys need.
I will keep you all posted which way they're leaning. If we're having a presentation, and then should all of the members want to be in attendance, that's great. Not a requirement. but I would just let you know so you can make that decision.
Great. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, Lisa.
No problem. Anything else? All right. Scott, turn it back over to you.
If nothing else, we stand adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.